Welcome to the Coffee Experts Club. If you're at all interested in anything we talk about in this episode, go ahead and check out the description down below, or if you even just want to know more about us, click on the links below. Now on to the episode.
Yes, boys.
Hey.
The Expert Club. Ben, Drew. Great to see you guys today. How are things?
Good.
Wonderful.
Drew, it's finally hot here. It's a dry heat.
I heard it's supposed to be real hot this weekend.
Uh-huh. We're actually hitting the hundreds, which is like 60 for you?
That was fast.
I bet you don't miss that about the Tri-Cities, Drew, is the sweet 100-degree heat.
I probably wouldn't notice anymore, to be honest.
I think it is dry, humid heat, right? So that would be a different.
I think I'd rather take 100 here in the dry desert than 80 down there in that humidity.
I mean, I've sweat through this shirt already twice, and it's only 10:30 here.
Well, sweat looks good on you, bro. Just know that.
That's part of my brand.
Hey, guys. I thought today we could talk about something for Coffee Experts. Coffee Experts, thanks for joining us, by the way. Don't want to just make it just the Aaron and Drew and Ben catch-up time. Great having you join us today as well. I thought, guys, what we could talk about today, based on some of the feedback we've been getting lately, Drew, from some of the clients you're in the middle of, even Ben, one for you as well, of having a system for everything that you come up against. Like, do you have a system for how you triage pain? You know, I a lot of times I'll liken it to when I moved my middle daughter down to Arizona. And, you know, I literally had all of her stuff in the back of my truck, and we were traveling south, and I got like 3 emergency storm warnings, you know, because they experienced flash flooding down in Arizona. I'm like, dude, where am I moving my child? You know what I mean? But, you know, the way that Arizona deals with flash floods is that they've got a good sewer system that strips water off the highway, so that when they get a deluge of a flood that just drops so much water on them, they've got a system for how they handle getting that water off the road. And I think that what I notice in a lot of coffee businesses is they just don't have good systems necessarily that end over end, this is how we handle this every time, so that as you increase the volume, right? Because increasing traffic, increasing more people coming into your business is going to increase the pain, right? That we have. How do we triage the pain? Where does this pain point go? How does this pain point work?
Yeah, man, it's easy to shoot from the hip or not have a system for something when you're getting 10 cars an hour and it's just you working your location. You just opened and, you know, people don't know who you are yet. You know, it's easiest to be like, well, just do it as it comes up. When you have 5 locations and you're getting ready to open a location, you've got to hire, 12 new employees. Well, how are they going to get trained? Who's going to train them? How are they going to learn your drinks the exact same way as the other 4 locations? You know, all of that has to be on paper. Otherwise, like if you're shooting from the hip on a grand opening, which we have done before, it's not fun. It's not fun at all.
I mean, it goes all the way down to, the tedious little details like maintenance. I remember Cody creating his robust, what was it? Cody's Best Friend Maintenance, Cody's Best Friend Coffee Maintenance or something like that. His YouTube channel for, initially it was putting out fires constantly. Fire. He was a full-time tech guy until he wrapped his mind around game plans, and then it became preventative, and it was you could schedule it out rather than running somewhere in the middle of the night because a pipe broke.
I forgot about Cody's YouTube channel. That was really smart. And the reason for that was he and I had a conversation about this very thing. I'm like, bro, because he would continually in WhatsApp send people videos that he had created. I'm like, what if we just dropped this on a YouTube channel and gave our managers all access to it? And then you could refer to it when they come up against pain points instead of having to forward videos. You're like, hey, have you checked it out? Have you checked this out? But it's all in the same database. Everybody goes to the same place for it. And I think having systems like that, go-tos, are so important. And I think a lot of the reason that most coffee shops don't have it, especially when you're growing from 1 to 2 to 3 and you're kind of on your upward climb, is because visionaries typically aren't very systems oriented. They are more shoot from the hip. And honestly, they kind of thrive on the chaos a little bit too. They kind of thrive on the energy that comes out of having to be good in the pocket. You know what I mean? They're like, no, I'll get there. They procrastinate. They don't always love to like address it until they feel the pressure. They don't want to get in front of it, And so a lot of times that worked for stand 1 and 2, maybe into 3, but usually by the time you're hitting stand 3, like your systems are all starting to break down and you need to have somebody that comes in. And Ben, I think that's when they really, like Taryn really probably stepped forward for Wes. And then you kind of dovetailed behind Taryn and kind of expanded on the systems that Taryn built. And so I think it's really important for people to have go-to systems. And I'm not necessarily suggesting that you need an operator, although I do think having an operator really helps. But I do think having tried and true systems that you can begin to implement before an operator is great too, which is, we created, if you haven't seen it before, guys, we created a 3-part, I think it's actually a 4-part series on this whole thing. And it's at myfirstdrivethrough.coffee, where it's like, I think we spent maybe an hour in each segment. And we kind of broke out for you. This is how you handle a grand opening. And this is how you handle your people and your hiring. And this is how you handle marketing and all these different pieces that come alongside of opening your first drive-through. But even if you have drive-throughs, I think it gives you the framework. And we actually give you some free tools in that masterclass as well, that gives you framework to work from. And then from there, you need to probably wrap it to your business, right? This is just the beginning frameworks, but it's free, right? There's something free out there that you can consume, get better at, and then from there, kind of build it to your own effect.
I remember grand openings specifically, the utter chaos of like, oh, we forgot this, we forgot that, we forgot this, we forgot that before we started using that smart sheet, which I think we even give away as a free tool in the Coffee Experts Academy of like, okay, if our grand opening date is, August 1st, then the sheet starts, 9 months prior, and it gives us due dates as we're going through it. But like even down to the I would always make the mistake of ordering, way too much smoothie mix for the new location, and we would just have, 30 cases of strawberry smoothie mix because, we were like, we do $2 drinks. I'm like, everybody's gonna, one year I was like, $2 drinks means everybody's gonna get a smoothie, and they didn't. But for some reason that stuck in my mind. So it was like every grand opening after that, I was like, let's buy a ton of smoothie mix, until finally they put it on paper. And I was like, buy this much of this much of this, here's where you need to get it. And just not sitting with cases of smoothie mix in the back forever. But so that's the stuff that, like, when you're just shooting by the hip like that, even when you do something wrong, like it just sticks in your brain. You're like, this is how I do it now. For some reason, like even though it was wrong, 6 months later, I'll be like, what did we do? Oh yeah, we bought 30 cases of strawberry smoothie mix. We should do that again. Unless you have that system in place or it's on paper, digital paper, probably more better in that sense, you're going to keep making the same mistakes because there's a chaos, it sticks in your brain, or you just forget and you make the same mistake over and over and over again. Training new employees, we used to do that from the hip as well. It was like, okay, you need to learn how to do shots, you need to learn how to steam milk, you need to learn how to do flavor, train 5 employees, forget to train them on this aspect, forget to train them on like how much syrup goes in this drink or that drink, until we put together basically a training booklet where day 1 is X, Y, and Z, day 2 is X, Y, and Z. These poor kids are getting into the shop and just being like, how do I make a drink?
Well, and I mean, we have probably 1,000 real world examples of how things could go wrong, and either we had it handled properly or not. The real benefit, the magic, is on the other side of whatever issue it is. I mean, we used to have, kind of near the end of roasters, we'd have tactical sessions on, let's just think of 100 things that could happen and solutions and it benefited us because we started that before COVID, right? So when COVID hit, we had some strategies. Or I remember managing GUA, and it was like a busy, crazy morning rush, and our pipe came disconnected. Our main pipe from our espresso machine came disconnected, and it was flooding the bar area. And I had a line of people out the door, and a car rear-ended another car, and a lady got bit by a dog, like all at the same time. But I was like, okay, for the pipe, I'm going to call Jarek, or Cody. And for the rear ending somebody, I'm going to send a barista out with free cards, even though it's not a. So there's these pieces, like it allowed me to have peace of mind as the manager of the store to stay in my lane and keep doing my thing so that everything doesn't shut down because of one little issue. Which can often happen if we don't have strategies for these things.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point to be made. We called them bookshelf strategies. You know what I mean? Where you could just pull a book off the shelf of how do we address this problem? Like as we get into the middle of it, how do we address this? And I think just having go-to systems is what we're talking about. Of like when I'm up against this is how I do it, and this is how we fix it, and this is how we address it. And Ben, you're exactly right. I think that the thing I love the most about that smart sheet, where it takes people through step by step, this is how you do a grand opening of a location, is that we attached back in there like assets that are attached to each line item, where we're like, hey, so this is how you talk to the contractors about things, and this is the set of plans. When you go to the city, this is what you have to go through. You know what I mean? When you're doing, like, even all the way back to your letter of intent, like I think we give you a sample letter of intent in there and a sample lease agreement. So you have something to start with, because that's usually the hardest part, right? You could go maybe just search blindly online for, give me a good template of a letter of intent, or ask chat, hey, give me a good letter of intent? But then you're trusting that they're going to pull off something that actually is good or not. These are all systems that we've used, tried and true, time and time again. But the reality is how many times have we had to open a location? You know what I mean? Like in the Roasters days, we opened a lot. Drew and I have opened 3 in the last 3 years. You know what I mean? Like, but even then, usually it's like once a year, right? So
Mhm,
how much atrophy can happen in your brain when you're doing something once a year? You know what I mean? Like
mhm.
how many other battle points did you have to fight through since the last time you did this? So having a documented place where here's the marching orders, here's the strategic plan, here's the bookshelf strategy we use to get through this so I don't have to hold it all here. And honestly, to get that out of just the owner's mind. Right. Because, and that's where that smart sheet came from was
Yeah.
Wes was holding those things all in his brain. Ben, you were holding those things all in your brain. Taryn was holding those things all in his brain. A lot of times those three brains didn't even match up, right? So it's like, okay, let's just create a comprehensive list top to bottom that we have to do in a date oriented fashion so that we know by the time it's go time, we're going to be ready without like that shit moment of we forgot to do this. Like
Mhm.
that's right, that sinking feeling in your stomach. The first one I had, Ben, was when we hadn't gotten the letter of occupancy from the fire department yet. So we had gotten all the way through all the technical things, but until we got this, like the certificate of occupancy from the fire department, signed off by the fire department and stamped by the city, we couldn't even open or we were going to get fined, and it was like, oh my gosh, dude, did we forget? And it was such a panic moment instead of, no, 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 certificate of occupancy is actually part of the smart sheet. There's a step in that. This is how you apply for it. This is the check marks you have to go through to get it. And this is how it's delivered. I think it just takes so much stress off it before you're in the pocket and feeling the stress.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I used to dread grand openings. Be like, "We're opening a new location." I'd be like, "Yeah." I'd be like, "God, no." Because nothing was written down, and every time it's like, "All right, where do we start with?" It's just like nobody remembers. We have a building. How much do we order? Like it would just be completely going off of what I can, and that's the exact opposite of my personality, right? The owner's personality is like completely shoot from the hip. I'm like the exact opposite,
That's right.
risk adverse personality. So it'd be like, we're just gonna wing it again. Can we just stop winging it, guys? Because every time we wing it, I can't sleep for a week. So
That's right. Or a month. Right.
once it finally got it on paper, it was like, okay, like going into it, I know exactly what I'm doing for the next 6 months. It's so much more stress relieving. I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs and visionaries that's not their personality. Like, why would you waste time working on something else on the business that you're not even going to get to in 6 months? Like, why would I sit down and put this all on paper? I'll just wait till it comes up and then I'll shoot from the hip and everything will be good. It'll all be good. That doesn't work for very long. It works for location 1 and 2 when it's just you, but when you're trying to open 2 locations in a year, like what do you
Yeah.
do then? Like there's
Right.
compounding effects. So if you're not going to sit down and put everything on paper beforehand, at least take some time to put some rough ideas on paper after the fact. What did I just do? What just went wrong? We did a really good thing where we would, after our grand opening, we'd have a debrief. What went wrong? What went right? What should we
Right.
change later? What hasn't been written down yet? What
Yeah.
needs to be updated in that SOP of ordering product for the new location? What needs to be updated in that SOP of how many employees should be staffed for the morning? I remember we had a grand opening where we staffed super heavy right out the gate, right in the morning. It was like 5 a.m. There's, 5 baristas on, and everybody's just standing around for 3 hours. And people go home, and all of a sudden we got slammed. So that goes in the SOP when when you're staffing for a grand opening. You staff light from 5 a.m. to about 8 a.m. Then you bring in the heavy crew. All that sort of stuff we just forget if you're just shooting from the hip at every grand opening. I think we did that for about 3 before we were like, can we please God write this down so we stop having this mistake every time?
I was going to say you said a grand opening, but I remember that happening in several iterations.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's important. Go ahead, go, Drew, go.
Well, I mean, what we've been dealing with as we've gone through this, however many years we've been doing this is the one huge benefit of having things written down is when you need to change things and you at least have a foundation to start from, because this solution scratched an itch and it hit these data points that helped us, through this time period solve these problems. But now that we're growing or changing or, shifting in some other direction, we at least have a foundation of a solution, and we can take those and do, hypotheticals. If we took it this direction, let's follow it, 1, 2, 3 more stores and see how this system grows this direction. If we took it this other direction, if we started making these kinds of decisions, we can also follow that branch and see how it grows across 2 or 3 or 4 more stores. And then, I mean, we do annual planning every year. We talk about possible decisions that we could make and directions we could take the business. But we wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't have these things already written down and practiced.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a baseline, right? It's like creating a baseline. And I would say any of the tools you get from us, if you go to myfirstdrivethrough.coffee, you're going to get a set of tools and some training, right? That's not like the Bible. It's not like the only way to do something, but it's a starting point, right? If you check out Coffee Experts Academy, it's 35 different modules on all the things we think to start your own coffee business and the systems you need. And we give away a ton of free tools. It's not the Bible, it's not like the only way to do it, but it is like a framework to start from to then make something that's going to be your own. And I know, Drew, like you recently, which I really have been loving watching you do for some clients, is we've been doing this now for 12 years. Like some of the stuff that we created a decade or more ago probably needs to be touched again, probably needs to be brushed up, probably needs to be reconsidered, probably needs to be reimagined for our clients as we come into them. So, but it's so much easier when you have a baseline that you're starting with to morph that into the culture of the client that you're working with, or for coffee shops to take it on their own and take the baseline and morph it into their own expression. But if you don't start with a baseline, that means it's like you have to create the wheel every time when
Mm-hmm.
sending somebody to the moon. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it's so complex you can't figure it out. But at the same time, that's an Achilles too, right? Because you're like, this should be simple. I should be able to figure it out.
Yep.
I don't really need anybody to help me. That's the entrepreneur spirit for a coffee shop owner. And then they have several shit moments where they're like, I hadn't thought this all the way through. And this is a huge exposed hole that if I would have just watched some content, thought through some things, listened to a couple podcasts about a grand opening, I probably would have had a good baseline that I could build from and not have things sneak up on me.
Mm-hmm.
From all the things I don't like about the current, social media and how everything's tracked, and I could go on and on, but that's a whole other podcast. One of the huge benefits is you can kind of see into the future of your business, unless you're on the forefront of some tech or software and even then, with what we have nowadays, there's people around you who can help you project, what are the pitfalls? What things am I not thinking about? You don't know what you're not thinking about, but somebody might know what you're not thinking about. And it's better to ask than to waste, 60 grand on some bad decision.
Oh, man. And I think that's also an Achilles, Ben. I know you saw us a lot. We dealt with this with Wes a lot too, there's that phrase or that piece of wisdom that says it's the little foxes that tear down the walls, and the whole thing is it's like the little holes, right? The things that you're not thinking through. It's all the small little things, but collectively all those things add up to the point where they just have eroded the foundation that you're building on, and the whole wall comes down. And I think that it's easy for entrepreneurs to nickel and dime things, like duct tape something together, like, hey, let's just do this quick fix and this quick fix and this duct tape solution. And then it's like, but collectively, all those things add up and they think they're saving money instead of realizing, no, that was a $60,000 burn that we experienced over the last year or two that we thought we were just nickel and diming. But if we had really kept both eyes open and really looked at it, we would have realized, man, it would have been so much smarter for us to pivot away from paying Red Bull all that money and just create our own energy drink. Like maybe work with like us with Indie Coffee Coalition, to like get my energy drink 3 times cheaper than what I can buy it on the open market, so that I can begin to save some of that money so that I can go out and replicate and open new locations. So think like vetting and checking and battle testing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this went all the way. This went all the way up to, our new locations. For the longest time, we never had a bar plan or even location plan that was the same. It was like,
right.
We kind of know how it's supposed to go. Espresso goes here, grinder goes here, strips go here, counters, whatever it is.
Yeah.
5 years in, those counters are falling apart. They're sloping. The espresso machine too far away from the baristas, until we were like, actually, you know what? Whenever we open a new shop, we've got a shop plan, and it's always the same. And an espresso machine always goes right here. Grinders always go right here. Blenders always go right here. And what do you know? By the last shop we opened, it was perfect.
I remember Carmichael, my first store that I managed after the grand opening. It was fun. It was a heavy energy 2-3 days. And then I didn't have any shelves in my stock room. I just had a bunch of piles of crap back there. And I remember saying, hey, what's going to happen? And Jared goes, you need to organize it. Like me, I mean, at least I had so much strawberry smoothie that I could build shelving out of it.
I love it. Awesome. Well, gents, thanks for the time today. Coffee Expert, I hope you enjoyed it. If you don't have systems of your own, find a baseline. If you'd like to use ours, they're free. myfirstdrivethrough.coffee. You can get a great start there with just some frameworks to think of and how you can evolve it into your own brand. If you ever need help, always feel free to reach out to us. DM us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, any of the socials. We'd love to help. So Drew, Ben, great being with you guys today. Coffee Experts, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week here on Coffee Experts.
Thanks, guys.